American magazines and their publications have seen a huge change over the years of their existence, especially when it comes to how they're published. Digital magazines have become more popular today. Almost every magazine, no matter their classification, has an online publication as well as a physical one. A majority of news magazines are seeing a dip in single-copy sales of their magazines. However, subscriptions remain generally the same with few outliers. This shows people are generally not becoming more interested in the magazine that covers mainly news in the country. However, people are still actively reading magazines as a way to get their news.
Magazines being sold nearly everywhere. Scholarly magazines have also seen dips in single-copy sales, but they've also had their subscriptions go down. However, the more widely known a magazine is, the steadier their sales. For example, National Geographic did not see intense highs or lows in their sales.
On today's society, it's actually one of the main forms of media referenced when mentioning American culture. Some examples are magazine increased use of clothing ads using models has a direct correlation with the spike in eating disorders in our youth. Also, although many people believe that journalists are unbiased, that is not always the case. Magazine article writers have quite the influence on readers when forming their opinion, especially if the article is written about politics.
Advertisers have been a huge part of magazines, and what is being advertised does have a large effect on readers. Literary magazines publish many of the important, well-known American authors' work, bringing up the question of what would have happened to their work had they not been brought to the public's attention through magazines. In early American magazine history, some writers exposed political corruption, and they were called muckrakers, having a huge effect on voters, politicians, and our democracy as a whole.
News magazines are exactly what they sound like. They analyze and even break down news stories. Some examples of news magazines are Time Magazine, Newsweek, and U.S. News and World Report. Popular culture magazines cover anything from celebrity gossip to the latest fashion trends. These are generally very popular as they appeal to a wide age range. For example, Vanity Fair, Cosmopolitan, and People magazine. Scholarly magazines tend to be more of a collection of articles from a wide range of qualified people. Some of these magazines have a focused topic that their articles mainly cover, but some also do not have set topics and let the writers write about their own chosen topic. Some types of scholarly articles are National Geographic, Academic Exchange Quarterly, and the American.
The first news magazine was Time Magazine, and it was created in 1923 by Henry Luce and Burton Hayden. The two worked together on the Yale Daily News and decided to work together on the magazine. Hayden was considered carefree and more laid back, and he saw Time as an important news outlet and yet an opportunity to report on pop culture. The first issue was published on March 3rd, 1923. The first issue was only originally 15 cents.
The golden age of magazines was right when the Great Depression hit the United States in the 1930s, and it was expected magazines would see a decline due to them being more of a luxury. Magazines actually began to thrive even more, despite the radio popping up as a new competitor. In 1936, Henry Luce purchased Life magazine and turned it into a photo magazine. Magazines such as Time, Fortune, and National Geographic were dominating in the business in the 30s. Magazines also started targeting in this time. Fortune was aimed towards the upper class, while other magazines like Life was focused more towards the people. Time has seen some controversy over the fact that they made Adolf Hitler Person of the Year in 1938. However, Time said that Person of the Year isn't an honor.
Photo magazines in the 1940s rolled in magazines. Predominantly photo magazines started to rise. With World War II at its beginning, magazines such as Life and Time saw their time to shine. Life focused mainly on advertising, showing off, and documenting the war. It showed the Americans what war was really like. All media was focused on the war. Everything was about World War II.
In the 1950s, a forced change came. Televisions became the predominant source of news in households. Magazines were forced into a corner and saw numbers dropping from their circulation, so targeting became the idea. Magazines started focusing on certain groups to attract the certain group alone. Magazines saw themselves divide into certain areas such as scholarly magazines, trade or business magazines, and popular magazines. It allowed the magazine corporations to avoid folding as well as to keep them afloat for the change. For example, the Saturday Evening Post started up and began focusing more on pop culture, diving into the lives of regular Americans and how they should